discuss why the hell you're driving a Tesla in that premiere episode.
Okay,
Because that's got to stop. That's got to
being
stop.
equal, I don't think she would be driving a Tesla right now.
Yeah, that's what I figured. You're gonna have to change to a Chevy Bolt or maybe a Lyric. In any case, I want to start. I'll start with actually you, Ilene. Ilene, of course, created the L word, and I think I'm going to start with you because what was really interesting, your reaction to this first show, the original couple, really, the couple of the L word. Talk about that.
Bette and Tina?
Yes, them, yeah.
Bette and Tina?
Not the beautiful young things, Bette and Tina, but they are beautiful, by the way, FYI.
What can I say? Who knew? Who knew? I think, some of you who've been fans of the L word for a long time and who rode with us and rode my ass about it.
Right.
Some of you know that it wasn't always my plan to keep Bette and Tina together. But
Well, talk about how you conceived of them in the beginning. What you built the show around them, and then the community went in circles around it.
I built the show around this solid couple with a view to portraying a real relationship, a real lesbian relationship between two adult women, and all of the ups and downs. And I thought that we were going to go through, well, we did. We went through many splits, divorces, infidelities. I just wasn't sure that they were going to make it back together, but you all seem to know they were.
So, Jennifer, talk about that evolution of her character and the relationship itself.
Well, I feel like I'm going to work backwards.
Okay.
Like, I feel that this season for Bette is really about self-mastery and how do we come to earn the love that we desire. And I think Tina was always more conscious in a way. I think Bette was so complex and so yang, like needing to get things done, that she wasn't always as progressive in a way as Tina. And so now she's coming to this place where she's going to try to see if she can maintain this self-mastery to earn this love that she's delighted in and anguished over for, I don't know, 20 years? How long has it been? I don't know. It's been like a really, really long time. But there's this thing of the original love, like the original spark, and you don't think somehow you can keep it, and that you deserve it. And Bette is willing to do anything she can to have it and to earn it and keep it.
With that relationship, how did you, when you were at the end of last season, you weren't sure, so they declare their love for each other and then she walks out. Did you feel that this was inevitable, that this relationship would rekindle?
Well, at the end of the season, she comes to the door, and I don't know why she's come to the door. I could be getting my ass kicked, like I'm not sure. And so when she declares her love, like there's that moment, I remember playing the scene that I'm hopeful that it's gonna go this other way, though I know that will be complex because I'm also loving someone else, but not in the same way as this original love. And then it just goes south and it's a disaster, and old Bette screaming fuck comes out, and there you go.
I would make 2 points though.
That was that was the scream after the silent thing. You do that scream really rather well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's the sitting on the rage, sitting on the rage, sitting on the rage, and then release the rage.
Yeah.
I just want to firstly point out that it's not yet a fait accompli.
Right.
They've
Not at
just reconnected,
Yeah.
and as we well know with Beck and Tina, things can go in any number of
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Are you signaling? Well, they have the daughter walk in, like, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Nothing can ever be complete in this.
No, it's the L word. It's not going to be like roses and sunshine and chocolate. It's not.
Yeah. So I'd love you guys to talk about sort of, you talked about, it is 20 years, I think, or more than, because
I think it's 20 years. The L Word debuted in 2004.
right. I had a 2-year-old, I remember, and now I have another 2-year-old. But when you think about the evolution of gay characters, it was at the time so groundbreaking, and there had been depictions of gays and lesbians, not great ones, but some. Does it feel like 20 years later, we're now seeing the same kind of things come back into the country, although the recent election was a little bit more positive for people, if only to sort of show that the voters really are much more sensible than anybody else in the media or politicians. But could you sort of give like this idea, what has changed from your perspective? Because it sometimes feels still, you know, problematic. The Senate just passed possibly a marriage bill. They've got just until January before they can't pass it.
Well, I think it becomes really clear that these stories are more important than ever. Really, you know, like I thought when we first came out, it didn't feel dangerous at all to me. Like it didn't. I don't know how to explain this. I haven't really thought this through, but it didn't. You know, you were telling stories that also had a certain amount of focus on the difficulty of being other, like, and that was necessary at that time. And now with these stories, the focus isn't on the difficulty of otherness, it's really how do we come to know ourselves through love and through our sexuality, and not only know the other person, but how do we come to know ourselves more deeply. And somehow that seems to be even more threatening to
It certainly is threatening.
people.
Our struggle is by no means behind us.
Yeah.
Jennifer should tell the story of why we brought the L Word back.
Oh,
You just liked hanging out with Alicia. That's what I recall when I saw you guys.
well, God, probably most people know this story already, but I'm going to tell it anyway.
Yeah, go ahead.
We started noticing on social media. I wasn't on social media that much, but I have a friend of mine that's her job, and she said, "Do you realize like the L word is mentioned a lot on social media?" And I said, "No, I had no idea." And that sort of stuck in my head a little bit. But then Kate and Alicia and I were talking, and we were talking about this new generation that we saw coming up. And for me, it was so incredibly exciting to see this generation who refuse the old words to define them. They refuse to be boxed into sort of prefab definitions of their gender, of their sexuality, and they were so powerful that they changed language. They changed the lexicon around gender and sexuality. And it was really exciting. And I was like, why aren't we should be telling these stories. Like, let's tell the stories of this generation, because this generation is gonna save us all, like across the board. And so we made a whole presentation to Ilene, like we showed you the data, remember, of like the numbers online.
Data?
Oh yeah, no, we had a deck. We had like a, we
They
had
came
a,
at me with data.
You three were doing a PowerPoint. Okay, go ahead.
yeah, well, my friend helped us. My friend Jennifer Beals definitely helped us.
Yeah.
She's like the deck master. So yeah, and then the
So,
election
you know,
happened.
there was the question, but why? Why now? Why now? Why now? There really has to be a very compelling reason why now, and then something happened in 2016.
Go ahead. What happened in 2016?
My tag, is that me?
Yeah.
No, that's me, that was my tag. Yeah, and then the election happened in 2016. I was at Standing Rock when the returns came in, and which was an honor, but
I was sitting at my
horrified.
table crying.
Yeah, and we were texting each other, and aghast. So then we decided to get together and talk about what can we do. And I went to Los Angeles, and we realized, okay, we're storytellers. That's our wheelhouse. So let's tell stories. And then you went to Gary.
Yeah, that was the answer, why now? And when I posited to Showtime that there was now a very compelling reason to bring the L Word back, they agreed.
So one of the
But
things
I have to intervene. I pitched it to Gary like around the time of the Uber deck. Like I pitched it to Gary. He was like, "Oh yes, no, this is not going to happen right now." But thanks. It was the why now. We needed the why now.
So Trump is the reason we have L Word generation.
No. The reason we have the L Word Generation Q is that generation.
Yes.
That's why we have the show.
So one of the things that's interesting though is it's not. It feels less political in a weird way. Do you think that, or is it just me not seeing that? Or is it just because of the expression? How do you look at it? Because I felt like there was more politics back then.
Well, I first have to say that I'm still affiliated with this show, but it's not my show.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. I'm not running it. Marjorie Lewis Ryan is the showrunner and the creative kind of rudder for the show. And it might be that her politics are a little more subtle than mine, because I'm not subtle.
And also, I think that it's a different. I think everything is political, right?
Right.
So it becomes intensely political that you're focusing on love, and that in and of itself is a political act.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Kara, I just think our generation, yours and mine,
Yeah.
you might not consider yourself a part of my generation,
Sure.
but I think you are.
I'm sure. I think I am.
Possibly. I
older.
think, our politics are a little more overt.
Yeah.
Our rage is a little more overt. I think that generation coming up, I don't think they're the generation right behind us, there are several in between.
Yeah.
But they have a whole different experience of life and a different way of doing politics.
And I think also it's this group of people that are, it's just a handful of people. Like this generation is also very intensely political. They know they have to be political because the planet is on fire. So there's a mandate to be political. It's just this group. It's like in a similar way in that the original L Word, sometimes would be critiqued. And you're like, wait a minute, this group of people in West Hollywood, it's not a monolith,
Right. When you think about that, in shifting to today, one of the things that's great about it that I think works, and I didn't think it would work, was the merging of the older characters and the younger characters. It really works. You three are hysterical together, I mean, really, honestly. And it feels comfortable, and you have these little scenes like at the dorm, right before the dorm, or in the chair, and you go back and forth. That's been you all are friends.
Yeah, we're all friends and we love each other, so it makes it easy.
Yeah. So when you think about those relationships where you keep, I have a lot of similar relationships for years. We've known each other for a very long time.
We've committed crimes together.
We've committed crimes together. For people who don't know, Jennifer stole a Twitter pin from the CEO of Twitter.
I didn't steal it.
You did. You finagled it away from him by being you, pretty much.
He wanted it.
He wanted to.
And so I felt compelled.
I have
to
a
get
great
it for my
picture. I
friend.
just posted it. And I was trying to get Jennifer on Twitter for years, and she was always like, I don't understand it. Now it's...
Yes, I remember. Oh my God, I remember that. She's like, oh, there's going to be this thing. There's going to be, you're talking 22 characters. It's going to go really fast. I'm like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to go slow? Like, say things
I know.
slowly and in depth. I'm like, that sounds crazy. And who's right?
Right now, only a few miles from here, it's collapsing. Right now, in real time, actually. For people who don't know, Elon Musk. It's all over Twitter, which is funny to watch it. But actually, Elon asked everyone to sign a hardcore declaration, and only 250 people did. So I guess they want to be softcore, or maybe they thought he was doing something else. In any case, away from, but things have changed in how people express and do storytelling. I'd like to sort of finish on this. When you think of doing shows, everything's changed drastically, and you're a showrunner for many other things, but streaming has come in, the economics have collapsed pretty much, or changed, or been different. From a talent point of view, everything has changed completely. And people are telling stories. You have a character in this show in the beginning as an influencer who's very funny. How do you think about that now? How do you think about making stories today, and how do you think about producing them and being in them and presenting yourself?
So I can start by saying I don't think about them any differently than I ever did. I just don't care about platforms, about distribution, about broadcast versus cable versus streaming. All I care about is telling stories. And I still think that there are queer stories to tell. That's what I long to do most. I do all kinds of things, but my stories are always queer. They're full of queer characters. Sometimes they're, queer ghouls or queer doctors, but I want to tell queer stories and tell them well and move an audience and tell stories about people who still are wildly, vastly underrepresented. And that's what we do.
Jennifer, in your estimation, has that changed, the underrepresentation?
It's changed, but not nearly enough. I mean, we could do nothing but tell queer stories for the next 10 years, and we would maybe be beginning to get some kind of equanimity.
I feel the same way. I don't think any differently about it.
We've got TikTok, we've got Instagram.
I know, I don't think about it.
None at all.
I mean, I'm the person that you were having to sell Twitter to, right? I mean,
Yes.
So I don't think about
She was a pain
it.
in the ass about the iPhone, but I'm not even.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
You're like, what? I don't get it. I'm like, just take it from my hand and use it, Jennifer.
You performed an intervention, as I recall.
Yeah, I'm not even going to mention the metaverse to you right now. Okay.
Okay.
But don't worry, Mark Zuckerberg's working on it. It'll take forever. Go ahead.
First of all, I love you, and I'm so glad you're here. She was supposed to be my guest. I was like, I think we need a moderator. Can you be the moderator?
Thank you. I'm literally supposed to be down at Twitter headquarters screaming at Elon Musk, but go ahead.
I just see it's like Ilene. I see it as storytelling. What stories do I want to be involved with? It's just about telling stories.
I'll tell you that Jennifer and I are talking about some new stories that we want to tell, and working on some new projects. Several of them together and some individually, but we come from the same place when it comes to what motivates us to go to the gargantuan effort of making films and television.
Mm-hmm. And so, are Bette and Tina going to get together? I'm used to binging, in case you're interested, that's a thing.
You're just gonna have to keep watching, because you're gonna get your surfboard out,
Yeah.
It's episode 1 of 10.
Yeah.
Hang in there.
Okay. How would you like it to happen?
How would I like it to happen?
I've
always thought
never
she
gotten to
was
get-
the love of her life. That's always, I always thought that.
This is the love of her life.
But I'm not gonna presume to tell a writer what to write. Like I said to Marja, write whatever makes you happy. She knew what I wanted. But I was like, write whatever makes you happy. And, to her credit, she has led us through COVID. She's, just kept on marching and telling stories and was undaunted by quarantines and shutdowns and all kinds of crazy things and just kept the train on the track.
And I know we joke about the hard time you got, we joked about it in all those videos and things like that. But what do you think the legacy, it's still continuing the L word, but what is the most impactful legacy? When people said that to me, I'm like, are you kidding me? There was nothing like it. Just, and I'd smack them a little bit and that would end the discussion. But I want you to talk about what you think it moves into from a long-term perspective and going forward.
To me, the L word never ends. I feel like these characters in these stories are a part of my life and a part of life We may go on doing this show for years to come. There may be other L-word shows. These characters will now, they have a place in our culture. And the thing, I guess, that means the most to me, other than whether or not Beck and Tina are going to get together in the end, is that I now have daughters who were 6 years old when we started making the show, and they're 27 now, and their friends watch the show and freak out over it, and it means as much to them as it did to the first generation.
Yeah, it is tremendous. One of the things, I have two older sons and two younger kids, but my oldest son's at NYU, he's 20, and he goes, you know, Mom, there's this cool lesbian show. And I said, yeah, I know them. And he goes, you know Jennifer Beals? And I'm like, yeah.
Wait, he knows me. Does he not know he knows me?
No, he didn't remember. He was like, he was watching it on it was popular on something, which was great.
Does he not know that you were name-checked on the original show?
No, he doesn't pay attention to anything I do. But that's okay.
And he obviously never heard of our chart.
Yeah, no, not at all. Let's not talk about that. Let's not discuss that. But I am curious, what happened to the show? This was a social network that probably we should revive again, because there's an opportunity in the market right now. But it's a good idea.
It was a
It was
good
a good
idea.
idea.
Way ahead of its time.
Way ahead of its time. Wasn't there a show where Alice was going to prison?
We made a pilot. It never went beyond that.
Okay, all right.
There was a minute when Alice might have maybe killed Jenny, but it didn't
It's called the multiverse. Last question.
Well, can I answer the legacy question?
Sure, yes, please do.
I hope this show goes on and on and on. I hope, you know, there comes a day when it's a whole nother generation that astonishes us, that takes the baton. And I hope that the legacy is that love is the loudest sound. That's
Fantastic. That's a great way to end, but I'm going to ask you one more question. When you think about the times we live in now, just Nancy Pelosi announced that she wasn't going to be speaker anymore today. She obviously, terrible attack on her husband, Paul Pelosi, who I know very well. There still was a resurgence around anti-gay stuff around his attack, including by Elon, by the way, which is unforgivable as far as I'm concerned. Do you feel that even though there's all these challenges in states across the country and against trans people, against gay people, and you can see it fomenting again, do you think it's the last stand or that it's a continual fight right now when you look at things? I think people have a different mood this week than a week ago because there was apparently no red wave. It was, what did someone say? It was a light trickle. It was a light spotting or something. I don't write this stuff.
I mean, we, you know, I don't know that any of us are experts, but you are more expert at this than I. I feel like we've come a distance, but we've got a long way to go, and we're going to keep fighting this fight, and no matter what the laws are, there are going to continue to be people that don't want us to exist. And we're going to continue to change hearts and minds as well at the same time.
Jennifer?
And as time goes on, I do believe that generations are smarter and more progressive and more loving, like based in compassion. And I think you saw that in the election. And that will be the change. And there will be some other fight to fight, but that you keep going day in and day out, and you don't take anything for granted.
Absolutely not.
Two lesbian
Yeah, 2 lesbian governors. Yes, there's more. Yeah, honestly, I think lesbians should do everything, and now Maura Healey and everybody else. And raise all the children too. Which
Well, and don't you
I
want to
know.
see a show where Bet and Tina are grandmothers?
You know,
You never know. Very, very active grandparents.
although alternate, you could have more children. I had 2 during the pandemic. What did you do? More children?
Not more children. No.
Okay. Thank
But
you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you so much. We, as a cast, and for me personally, like I feel how much you love this show. I feel how much you support us, and I just want you to know it's been the ride of a lifetime, and I'm really just grateful.
Just want to say before we go, I know you're trying. Thank you, Ilene, for creating it. And Jennifer, you're at the beating heart of the whole show. Really, you are. Thank you.